Now we'd like to turn the floor over to His Excellency Aminath Shauna, Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Technology of Maldives. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Hello, and very good morning, ministers and excellencies, distinguished speakers and participants, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to you all. Let me begin by thanking the current chair of CVF, the government of Bangladesh, for organizing this important meeting at this very crucial time. Today, we are all facing the climate crisis, and none of us are immune from its adverse impacts, which is threatening lives and livelihoods of many countries around the world. Extreme events are on the rise. For example, last year was among the hottest years on record, and damages associated with the extremes are mounting in all parts of the world. The science shows that without effective and urgent action, extreme events will increase, and its frequency and magnitude associated with extreme events and more frequent events and devastating impacts. And the science is so clear. The latest IPCC report is code red for all of us. For the low-lying vulnerable countries like the Maldives, climate change is not just a threat anymore, it's already here. More than 80% of our islands are less than just a meter above mean sea level. And 90% of our islands report flooding annually, and 97% report shoreline erosion. Everything is at stake for us: our income, our food systems, our water resources, and our survival depends on climate-related vulnerabilities. But our contribution to global warming is negligible. However, we don't want to only be victims, but we also want to be victors. We're determined to be part of the global solution by to take ambitious climate action and committing to achieve low emission development and a climate resilient future. In the Maldives, we have an ambitious target to reach net zero by 2030. And to reach this target, extensive support is needed from our development partners. We are also working with the CVF to formulate a prosperity plan for the Maldives, and we hope to finalize this ahead of this COP. We're making plans to shift our economy from running on diesel to running on sunshine. We're committed to protecting our reefs, mangroves, and ecologically significant areas by 20% by 2030. We have made plans to phase out single-use plastics by 2023. And the real action is happening on the ground. However, we cannot do this unilaterally. Regional and global cooperation is really key to success. Distinguished colleagues, the Maldives firmly believes that implementation of ambitious climate action can only be achieved by the provision of adequate, predictable, and sustainable financing from developed countries to developing countries, especially for LDCs and SIDS. Although mitigation actions are an important and significant pillar in addressing climate change, the Maldives, along with other vulnerable countries, have consistently been calling for fulfillment of obligations under the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement to seek a balance between both mitigation and adaptation finance. To this end, we would like to see more concrete action towards facilitating grant-based finance for adaptation and resilient building in our countries. We are also particularly concerned about the issue of increased debt burden for our country. Given the impact of COVID, we are even more worried about this. Despite our efforts to raise finance for adaptation from multilateral partners, we have not had much luck. We call on international financial institutions to constructively engage to change this, as we cannot keep funding our adaptation by borrowing from commercial banks. It's disheartening to see we are still far from the goal to mobilize $100 billion annually by 2020. Distinguished colleagues, the upcoming COP26 is crucial We cannot afford further delays without reaching a meaningful progress. We all need to wrap up all outstanding items to kickstart the full implementation of Paris Agreement at the earliest. As vulnerable nations, more emphasis on loss and damage need to be one of our main priorities. The operationalization of Santiago Network on loss and damage, the necessary finance and support for longer-term transformational funds to address the impact of slow onset events such as sea level rise, and addressing post-disaster relief response and capacity building to deal with the projected frequent climate impacts are a must for us now. It's no longer a choice. Although many efforts are being undertaken, we still lack proper support to implement our national adaptation plans. I strongly believe the COP need to have further discussions on how urgent support can be mobilized to implement the adaptation actions to address immediate adaptation needs. And of course, most importantly, the $100 billion finance goal. Let me conclude by assuring our full support and commitments towards making this upcoming COP26 a success. And I thank the CVF for their continuous efforts to make this a success as well. I'd like to once again thank the organizers for this important discussion in our region. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your remarks, Minister Shauna. And the Philippines is one with you in supporting the ban for single-use plastics, as well as pushing for the Santiago Network on loss and damage, as well as the efficient and quick mobilization of finance for adaptation.